And welcome back to the Sports Source, this segment of our program brought to you. And again, we're trying to mention all of our sponsors right now because we want you to know who's open, who's partially open, who's still waiting to open. So this segment brought to you by two of our folks, Medic Regional Blood Center. You see right there, medicblood.org. They are open, but they are requesting that anyone who gives blood call ahead and make an appointment for your safety and theirs in terms of keeping people socially distanced, keep things clean and everything. But certainly they need blood donations now as much as ever. Medic Regional Blood Center. It's also brought to you by Tennessee Urology. And of course, they're still offering their telehealth. They're offering urgent and emergency care one-on-one with their patients. But if you need to talk to a doctor, they have their telehealth service available. You can go to their website, tnurology.com, to learn more about that. And they are working toward getting themselves back open to some degree and also opening up the new surgery center to get things going again. So Medic Regional Blood Center and Tennessee Urology. Okay, I want to welcome in the next member of our panel right here, Josh Ward from WNML. You can hear him weekdays from noon to 3. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Sean.
All right. Let's take a look at the recruiting haul for Tennessee this week. And I've listed it as it went down. Sunday, 5-star defensive end from Alabama. Monday, 4-star safety from Florida. Tuesday, 4-star wide receiver from Georgia. And then Thursday, 5-star linebacker from Florida and a 3-star running back from Hutchinson JUCO in Kansas. If you're saying 3-star, that's so beneath us for this week. He also happens to be the #1 ranked JUCO running back in the country. Josh Ward, there's also talk of another prospect that could be coming Tennessee's way on Mother's Day.
Yeah, Caden Salter, quarterback from Cedar Hill, Texas, and it's looked like a Tennessee-Auburn battle. There's been talk of maybe his mom preferring Tennessee. Well, if it's going to be on Mother's Day, that probably makes you feel a little better if you're Tennessee, unless you just really want a surprise.
Right, right.
But yeah, Tennessee's in a good position with Salter at quarterback, and they want to find a player at that position, of course, in the 2021 class.
A couple of weeks ago, we discussed on the show the fact that Tennessee had, I think at that point, 10 commitments, but only one was a 4 or 5-star. Everything was 3 stars, and we were looking at Florida, who had a couple more commitments, but 7 4-stars. And we said, okay, are you getting the level of athlete you need? They took care of that this week.
Yeah, they really did. You want to talk about moving up. They did in the rankings, but they really did athletically and at really important positions. If we were to break it down to what Tennessee needs the most, I would have said you have to go find guys that can go get the quarterback.
And let's put the graphic up again there. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and they started and ended the week, I think, that way with Brooks and then Terrence Lewis, 2 potentially elite players on the outside. Lewis is a guy that could play inside or out, but that actually works to your advantage if you're Jeremy Pruitt running the defense. But they needed an athlete wide receiver. Julian Nixon strengthens that position. Will Coxon, who's also been very active in recruiting for Tennessee, and he's one of the former Florida guys. So if you're trying to compare Tennessee to the Gators, well, you have 2 guys in this class actually who are currently committed, Lewis and Will Coxon this week, who had been committed to Florida, now committed to Tennessee. That only helps.
I saw where Florida social media or some of their coaches put out some tweets.
Social media's had an interesting week, no doubt.
Yeah. Just saying, is that your final answer about one of the Florida kids? And that's something you always wonder about. Is it's great to get these commitments now. How many can you hold on to? But David, going into this recruiting class with everything up in the air, you don't have the visits. You're not able to travel. It was going to be a gauge on which staffs not only had the best thing to sell and were the best salesmen, but were the best at adapting, that could use new technologies, that could adapt on the fly. You got to give grade A to Jeremy Pruitt and his crew so far.
Yeah, I mean, Jeremy Pruitt likes to talk about it. It's a results-based business quite a bit. And, well, you got results at this point. Yeah. I mean, for them to be in the position they are right now, best class in the SEC, 3rd in the country, I mean, they're still ultimately coming off of, an 8-5 season. That's pretty remarkable. And I think, obviously you've got some momentum, and those things can help. But they got off to a slow start last year, and then they obviously got off to a slow start on the field as well. And for them to finish that and still get a top 10 class, now you've got some momentum going into the offseason. Pretty normal last few months, at least in terms of momentum for everyone else. And for them to be able to capitalize, I mean, they're making good on this class, this staff touting itself as a recruiting staff. And again, you got to hold on to these guys. But even if you drop a couple, there's no one that they're that could just decimate the class. And they're still in the mix for a lot of elite guys as well. Right. And Salter, his possibility. So. a long way to go in Tennessee. This class, as good as it is right now, could really get better.
Josh, any ideas on what the key is? What suddenly has kicked into gear?
Well, I do think that Jeremy Pruitt has put together a staff. The main goal, or at least the top priority, would probably be to take recruiting to another level. And Brian Niedermeyer, he did a really good job closing out last year's class, I guess the 2019 class, with guys like Quavaris Crouch and Henry To'oTo'o, Darnell Wright. And I think that has returned with this year's class, and they've been better with social media, I think. Does a Zoom call where they get everybody on there, does that all of a sudden mean, hey, Dylan Brooks is going to commit, Kamar Wilcoxon's going to commit? No, not necessarily. I think that's just an example of the different things that they are doing. They're very aggressive, and they have a good sales pitch. But it's a staff made up of guys who are really well thought of as recruiters. Jay Graham joining the staff is a guy that's really well thought of. Shelton Felton as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Zoom call. For those who aren't aware, this is, 2-3 weeks ago at this point, they started a Zoom call where former Vols would check and try and get the coolest big-name celebrity they could to join in the call.
Big boy, LL Cool J, NFL's
Kevin
stars.
Hart.
Yeah,
It was
absolutely.
T. Martin cheating on that, being in LA for the last 5 years. His wife's like a pop singer.
But
T.
it
Martin
was-
is a cheat code.
But it was a lot of celebrities, and not all. It's not like there were some people that were known to be fans of other schools, but they got involved, and I thought, oh, you're helping UT there.
Even got Randall Cobb on, and Randall had to think, what am I doing? I'm helping Tennessee. I'm a Kentucky guy.
Exactly. So it was. They have thought outside the box, which I think, that was going to be key this year, and we wondered if shutting everything down was going to be an advantage to Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State, because we're the big boys. Not everybody's going to have as much chance to get in front of kids to take people from us, so the big boys would thrive. Now, Tennessee has gotten back in the top 10 last year, but still, after an 8-5 season, you don't consider them a big boy yet.
Yeah.
So for them to be where they are, and along those same lines, Alabama is nowhere to be seen in the rankings right now, whereas number 1 in the country is North Carolina and Mac Brown. So it's an interesting year to watch all this play out.
And I think one thing we didn't hit on, too, is who they're beating out for some of these guys. I mean, LSU, Auburn, Florida, Alabama for some of these guys. And so when you're in that rarefied air and you're winning those battles, you got to stack up a lot of battles to start beating them on the field consistently. But you got to start somewhere. And Tennessee, I think if Tennessee gets this thing going and starts winning some big games and starts flirting with winning the SEC, winning playoffs, I think you're going to point to the close to the 2019 class that last week and this week as that's kind of where it started.
Well, that's interesting. That's what we're going to talk about next. There was a specific moment in time when we said on this show, okay, Butch Jones is dead now. He's dead. There's nothing he can do to save it. Have we seen a point now where we're willing to say, Jeremy Pruitt's the guy? Okay, this is the guy. And if you're saying, well, of course he is, go back to the Georgia State week and ask yourself if you were saying that. This has been a meteoric turnaround, and we'll discuss it next. Jeremy Pruitt's big rise.